separate issues: collusion and so-called obstruction. There was a report today that you said no questions on obstruction. Am I assuming here that your response to him was maybe a couple of written answers only?
Well, I can't tell you what it is yet because we haven't.
Sure you can.
No, I know I can, but I can't. Jay will get very angry at me. My co-counsel is much stricter about this than I am, so he'll get very angry, and Jane will. I'd love to tell you, but the reality is, he doesn't need to ask a single question on obstruction. He has all the answers. They're not going to change. The president's not going to change his testimony. So stop the nonsense. You are trying to trap him into perjury because you don't have a case.
Mr. Mayor, the Constitution, as our good friend Mark says, Mark Levin, is on the president's side. I agree it's illegitimate, has been. The double standard is so glaring. We have been pointing it out now every night, and with new details every night. My question is, I wouldn't give him a thing. You don't owe him a thing, and if he wants a fight, then it's going to be a fight.
Well, we don't like to fight, you know that.
Mr. Mayor, I used to watch your press conferences. I disagree with that.
The reality is, the real story here is not that this case isn't going to fizzle. It's going to blow up on them. The real question is what we talked about before. There's a lot more to what they did that nobody knows about yet.
I know some of it.
A lot more to the obstruction of justice, to the collusion, to the fake dossier.
Oh, I know.
To trying to bring Steele back in after he was completely discredited.
And then feed it to Mueller.
Yeah. And Mueller is going to have a lot to answer for.
Mr. Mayor.
I said a long time ago, the investigation here has to be in the investigators, because we can't let this happen again in American history. We may not have a president as strong as President Trump. A lesser president could have really been cracked by this.
Mueller, then you got Jeannie Ray, you got Andrew Weissman. Here's my question. We know the Department of Justice has absolutely denied congressional subpoenas. Now, I don't, as great a lawyer as you are, I don't think you'd get me out of trouble if I was ignoring a subpoena.
No, I don't think I could.
But the president has the power to go through these documents, through the FISA, and make it unredacted and let the American people see that the bulk of information was what Christopher Steele himself said wasn't verified.
That's something that, as his private lawyers, that he has to do with Emmett and his government lawyers. And he's going
Would
through
you
it right
suggest
now.
he should?
I can't tell you what I suggest. It's privilege.
Okay. Let me ask you about the FISA lies. The bulk of information the Grassley Graham memo says came from the phony dossier that Hillary paid for. That turns out to be a lie. The author of it says he can't corroborate it.
Right.
Now here's my question. So they used it 4 separate times to spy on an American citizen, an opposition party candidate campaign associate, in the lead up to the election, after the election. Again, what if I lied to a judge? I wouldn't think of lying to a judge without getting my life in jail afterwards.
You'd be investigated for perjury. You'd be investigated for contempt. Your career would be ruined. Your life would be ruined. And I believe that when this plays out over the next year or two, it's not going to be about President Trump. It's going to get over with. It's going to be about all the things they did. You know how sometimes the cover-up is worse than the crime? In this case, the investigation was much worse than the no crime.
Mr. Mayor,
the president did nothing wrong.
My sources are telling me that when the American people get to the bottom of all of this, it will shock the heart, the soul, and the mind of any fair-minded American.
I think it's going to lead to some very strict, very big reforms, just like Watergate. It's a different kind of Watergate. It's on the side of the investigator.
Okay.
Corrupt investigations, through and through.
Why would you even consider a counterproposal?
When it's over with, I'll explain it to you.
Boy, I'm not getting anything out of you tonight. Good to see you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. All right, when we come back, Andy McCarthy.